And we should be live. This is number 68 community podcast for Cyberpunk 2077. Oh my goodness. Ash also pointed out to me this morning that this is the second time we've hosted a podcast on the Triple S League where it was 123 days to go before the release. So that's really hilarious. Like that is legitimately hilarious that line, because it's two numbers, right? Like you've got the tracking of the release date being pushed back, but then you also have the oddity that we're constantly like swapping channels. So yeah, it's weird. It's so weird that it just happened to line up just like that. So anyways, today we have a special guest with us. We have our usual suspects with LastKnownMeal.
Hello everyone.
We have TheNeonArcade.
Yo, what's up?
And we have Madqueen, who's probably asleep somewhere because of that wonderful summer heat there. So we're hoping that she's okay. But yeah, I'm sure she'll pop in at some point if she wakes up. And Dennis Mephisto is our special guest today. So hello, Des.
Hello.
So he's a speed leveling expert, and we have brought him on to kind of talk us through some interesting news that we have today about how the ending works. And we've had this rumor pop up once or twice before, but it's resurfaced again in another interview, Polish this time, and we're hearing this again. So we suspect now that there's some more and more credibility to this. So how that's going to affect speed leveling, we're going to have a fun chat about that. So how is everybody's week last known?
It's been great, especially been busy working on videos, and that's pretty much it. Staying home because everything is still kind of iffy here. So yeah, at least I'm having fun with the community.
Mm-hmm. And Neon, how's your week been?
Yeah, pretty similar. Just been working on some videos. I think I had one of my most productive weeks, so can't complain about that one.
No.
Yeah, other than that, just staying home, like LastKnown said.
And Des, how has your week been so far?
It's been absolutely exhausting. I've been pushing for a partner and planning for this charity event, which we've already raised 1,500 in about 4 hours.
Damn.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is something that we're passively announcing right now, that we're going to be doing some kind of a charity stream for Cyberpunk sometime next year, early, probably February, March. We're going to be doing that, and we've got a whole bunch of other community events planned to go ahead, and we're working on a whole bunch of really cool ideas. If you have any ideas that you want us to do, or you think that would be fun to see us do with the community channel post-release, let us know, because we're not stopping as soon as this game releases. We've got tons of content to continue to cover. We've got tons of interviews to continually give. We're going to do a whole bunch of new stuff going forward. So yeah, make sure that you guys stick with us, because we're not slowing down. We're going to be covering this. We're going to be covering all of the expansions, all of the rumors, all of the juicy lore with those, and then we're going to be moving right into the multiplayer as well. So we are going to be here for years, which is amazing.
You can't get rid of us.
Yeah, we're in your system now. I may or may not have already hooked your all your mobile devices, computer devices to my central network. So, yeah, there's that. So, what's the Dingus? I hate calling you that in the chat. Dingus has mentioned something about Paweł Sasko dropping another bomb. Which one, or like which one is that? Does anybody know what he's talking about there?
I think he's talking about what you were talking about. You were talking about the quest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's always hard, because it's like I never know, like, if they're talking about something that we're already talking about, or talking about something that is literally just happened a few seconds ago and I'm not aware of it. So yeah, no, this is pretty interesting news. LastKnown, you know probably the most about this so far. Do you want to kind of give it the rundown?
Yeah. So yesterday, was actually informed on Twitter on this. basically the website called altker.com posted a article saying you won't have to finish the main story to complete Cyberpunk 2077. It's actually quoting the interview from Paweł Sasko, which he did for spidersweb.pl. Now, I'm going to quote what was written actually in this website. So it goes like this. So in the Cyberpunk structure, we have this wheat spike, which serves as its center, the main storyline with different subplots surrounding it, which can be triggered in a various ways. Those subplots allow us to do something that we've never done before. They change the main plot of the game, and they're doing that in such a way that you may not even finish the main plot, but still finish the game and get a completely different epilogue than the player with a different life path who made different choices. Met different characters and formed relationships with them. So what is this kind of saying is that you don't have to finish the main story. But again, I don't want to kind of push this until we have Paweł or someone else double down on this, because it might mean what they talked about before is that the game has various different endings. So in a sense, some parts of the story, due to your maybe life path or whatever, can be different in that sense. But if it is actually possible to finish the game and have a, let's say, some form of an ending without the main story, that's strange, that's new, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I haven't any other games that have done this. Like a side quest is kind of the end all be all kind of deal, and they don't have a main ending, I guess.
So let's do a kind of a spoiler alert for the Outer Worlds. And Des, can you, because you were mentioning this earlier, so can you mention this? So spoiler alert for that. We won't go into details of the quest. We'll just mention that you can get a particular finished game by doing a particular event. So just mention the how that happens there. So just a warning and go.
So basically, there was technically like a bad ending, but with a lot of speedrunning, sometimes just seeing the in-game credits is technically all you need to qualify for having beaten the game. Mm-hmm. And in Outer Worlds, there were certain things that you could do that about maybe 10 minutes into the game, you'd be able to trigger this bad ending and it's over. And so it's possible to complete a game outside of what we would normally consider a basic content loop of like going through quests, and then you progress the quest, and then you get to like a accumulation of events, and then you have the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think, I think so. I suspect quite strongly that this is probably going to be the case, because it's an interesting, unique way of telling the story, right, and altering the world, and it really does take that aspect of open worldness to a completely new level.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we're really seeing a push in this direction.
Yeah. And there's also Far Cry 4, as Creature Kobe says, where you can just wait, I believe, and that's it. You're done with the game. Mm-hmm. By the way, for the Outer Worlds, do you have to glitch that to trigger?
No.
Oh, you don't.
I think you just select it basically.
It's basically just, I mean, it involves a little, not like exploiting, but like a little like going slightly out of the basic content loop. Mm-hmm. And then you just go and activate the thing, and there it is.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of a form of that, in a sense, especially with these many like branching storylines. So I mean, I don't like. Still, I wouldn't really. I don't know.
So if you trigger that, how long does the game play out to be? Like, what's the runtime of the game if you trigger that? Is it?
I think it's like 10 minutes to go from start to end if you do it like as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
No, and I mean that's kind of like, you can kind of do the same thing in Fallout 1. You can really push particular endings incredibly fast, and in one of my favorite games, Jagged Alliance 2, you can complete that in about, I think it's like 7 minutes or less, just by like, you go in, you're giving your first like initial payment for hiring mercs. You hire one particular guy who's really good at doing a couple of different things, and you have him like basically walk the whole length of the country from this initial landing zone all the way down south until you get to this like one place where you can pick up a couple of rocket launchers, and then you go from there. You go all the way down to where the Queen is, and you do basically like, so you got 3 rocket launchers. The first one you use to blast a hole through the gate, second one you use to blast a hole through the building, and the third one you use to blow up her. And it's like boom, there you go, that's the, and then everybody suddenly is like, oh yeah, this is a beautiful ending. It's basically like an assassination. So I think these are good things, and I really am looking forward to, if this is really the way that it's going to work in this one. I think that's great, because then that gives you this like, I think it really gives you more flexibility in the world and in the stories.
Absolutely.
So, Des, you were saying that when it comes down to speed running, there are certain ways that speedrunners will run games like this, so that they have to hit like a certain thresholds or something like that. You want to mention about?
Yeah, so when it comes to speedrunning in general, one of the major things is there's a whole multitude, because obviously a lot of people are going to be like, well, that you didn't really beat the game. So there's like a lot of the asterisks that go into completing things, because, you know, obviously there's 100% completion. There's no glitched runs. You've reached the end credits runs, any percent runs. So there's a lot of variety, and you know, obviously in Cyberpunk you're going to see like maybe 100% runs. You're going to see the name of each of the different types of things are escaping me right now, but each of the different kind of paths that you could choose, you'll see runs based on that. And then you'll just see fastest possible run to reach the end as well.
Yeah. And that's going to be interesting for this game, because it's like, okay, I reached the end in, let's say, I don't know, this many hours or whatever. So what if I talk to this person, because it's branching a lot, so maybe that can be faster. So I think that's going to push a lot of people to do speedruns. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Especially it depends on like how fast, even though they said like, okay, you can like maybe finish the game like without the main quest, but even that is like how fast and what you actually have to do in a sense, because we still have Johnny. So does the story with him resolve like that fast? I don't know. Depends. But this might be also for life paths, different life paths. You kind of finish the story in a different way, knowing different people. He might be referring to that. It's like,
well, I know they've said that if you play stealth, the game is going to be considerably longer. So I mean that probably plays a factor into it too, right? What perks you're picking, not only the narrative choices, but your actual character building.
Yeah. Especially if you just go ram through everyone with the armor and just Arasaka Tower immediately. Let's go.
Yeah, you're just a huge tank and you walk through everything. You don't even kill anybody.
Just imagine playing a game and just, oh, god damn it, I triggered the end game. Oh, you run someone over, or I don't know, you press a button that you shouldn't.
I feel like that's happened before. With like I don't know, I know especially in the Outer Worlds that there was something similar to that, but there have been some situations where if you go a certain place, you've literally triggered the end game. It's something you actively actually have to avoid.
Yes.
So
yes.
How would you approach speedrunning when it comes to like an open world RPG like this? Is there like a methodology that or is it just trial and error? Or?
I mean, anytime with speedrunning, it's 100% trial and error. It's literally like for the speedrunning that I do in WoW, it's always about run the content, look at every possible issue or like every possible thing around you, figure out the time investment, and then sometimes it's just figuring out how to go through the hardest part and make it as efficient as possible to save time.
Okay. That's interesting. Depends on the did anyone actually speedrun? I think someone did speedrun through The Witcher 3. I don't know what's the time on that. But those things would be kind of difficult to like depending on Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk is okay, it's more open, while The Witcher is like, yeah, but it's still kind of more linear. You can't approach certain levels of the game without triggering certain effect.
I feel like people would build upon like the past speedrun record. Someone would build upon that and find another little intricate way to cut down the time by however many hours, right? Because there's just so many different ways that you can play the game.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. And then often you'll get someone who's kind of like a trailblazer will figure out in a completely different aspect that everyone was overlooking because everyone's looking at the top person. Like right now, the fastest time for The Witcher 3 is 2 hours and 58 minutes and 22 seconds. The seconds, 2 hours 58:49, 2 hours 59:57. So everyone kind of follows the same path.
Right.
True. We'll see. It will be. It's like how much does it take? Do you have to do you finish the game a couple of times before you can actually feel comfortable doing or is it just let me try this, let me try this, let me try this? How do you approach that?
It takes a lot of time. This is why I've struggled to do speedrunning outside of World of Warcraft. Since WoW is kind of a special interest for me, I'm able to sink in like countless hours. But in a single player game, if it takes like 50, 60 hours to beat, you're probably looking at like 500 hours of testing. Oof. Maybe more.
Yeah, at the very least, right?
Yeah, because like you literally have to go ahead. You have to go through the route. You have to analyze every single thing. So like, all right, okay, is this quest necessary? Okay, this quest is necessary. Can I glitch this quest? What's the fastest route from beginning to end for this quest? What do I have to do? Is there a way for me to skip right to the end of it? And then you're also looking at, okay, can I actually skip past certain quests? Can I get ahead? How far can I get while avoiding things and still be able to live, succeed, etc. as well? There's a lot of like fine details.
So in the speedrunning community, what's heralded as like the top tier speedrun? Is it like a no glitch run, a completely dry run, or is glitching like kind of acceptable in when it comes to records? Or I guess they individualize the records by what you're doing, right? Obviously, but is there more emphasis placed on not doing it or speedrunning without glitches and stuff like that?
It goes both ways from what I've seen. Personally, I know for myself, glitchless runs are the ones that I like the most because it really shows mastery over the game, whereas glitch runs show mastery over the technicalities of the game.
Right, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yep. We have Paris in the chat as well. Hello, Paris. And I believe Madqueen is here. Hello, Madqueen.
Hello, I didn't want to interrupt you. I am terribly sorry.
No. Well, we're a little bit worried about you.
No, sorry. I have new lore, and I was working on a video, and I got super carried away, and I didn't realize what time what was. I am terribly sorry.
That was kind of the intro. Oh, Madqueen is coming. Don't worry. Give her 10 minutes. She's on her way. We were betting you were sleeping, but you were working, I guess.
Yes. Wow, it's so cool. It's so cool. No. I'm super excited because I was doing a video on the Unification War, and everything was speculation. Everything that I wrote was speculation, but then I got access to the real information, and I nailed everything, and I was super happy.
Insider lore access,
Yes. Not that much. It's on the World of Cyberpunk 2077 book.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about that too, right? Or were we going to talk about that, or I don't know if Sam wanted to.
Yeah, someone he's going to be here shortly. Yeah.
Well, if you want to talk, I think that talking about the book will be better when someone of us has the book.
That's true.
I will next week, but...
Well, I mean, apparently it's not getting delayed anymore because it's happened like 5 or 6 times at this point. So we're finally getting our hands on it.
Yeah, it looks super interesting. It doesn't give an insane amount of lore. It gives enough for you to get a more or less vision. And it's more talking about small details on how the world building is reflected inside the video game.
Well, that's interesting.
with a lot of art from cdpr, and it looks it's super beautiful.
Yes, can't wait to see the new art. Dracula says NMG runs. What are NMG runs? Does anybody have an inkling as to what that is? He says NMG runs are so impressive to watch. It's just pure skill through and through.
No, I don't know. I know people do like no hit runs and in Dark Souls.
I see, no major glitches.
Oh, that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't. The ones I like to watch are probably like Dark Souls, and when they're doing a like no die run, like no death.
Mm-hmm.
That's oh my god.
That adds that little extra bit of suspense that you need in a speed run, because at any moment it's gone.
Yes. True.
Like with the speed run, when you're doing it, you can kind of limp yourself past the finish line. Right? It might not be the fastest percent, but you're still showing like a mastery of skill. When you die, that's it. It's gone. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's why I say in Cyberpunk, like, yeah, obviously they say like stealth is the slowest at first, but honestly, when people learn how to properly do stealth, they're just gonna run through buildings.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I believe in Skyrim, people were doing that. When you like up the skill, like it's probably gonna be like, let's go up the skill quickly, like do that, and then go through it.
Yeah, I made the mistake of like leveling up a ton of like passives, like restoration, and then blacksmithing, leather, like just all these like crafting skills. Got super high. Suddenly I went into combat with like no good armor, because it was still like in the first little town. I managed to like squeeze out like 20-30 levels just crafting like crazy and doing all this stuff. And then the first time I went into combat, I got my ass handed to me by a wolf. And I was like, oh right, yes, leveled up, and everything leveled up with me. So yeah, you gotta be careful how you do that. But anyways, sorry about that. Sorry, I was way a little bit there. But yeah, no, I was listening and like, yeah, no, I think this is how it'll go kind of with the speed running for 2077, is that, like you said, I think they'll probably have like certain requirements for you to hit. So like basically it's like a relay race, right? You're going around in a big circle, but it's like you got to make sure that you hit these hit the checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Madqueen, we made a little announcement without you here, but just so you're also in the loop. Hopefully, probably February or March next year, we're gonna do a charity stream, probably along the line of like a speedrunning event within the game, either doing a particular like quest or mission or something like that, and just kind of see where we can go with that.
Oh, that sounds super cool.
Yeah, something to do after the game has come out and that kind of stuff. So maybe even January. It's usually a little quiet in January. So, but yeah, we're gonna be doing as much stuff as we can in the future.
True, until we just get the hang of the game a bit.
Yeah, like in the 5th or the 4th or the 6th playthrough.
Yeah. All right. So Max, Pears, and this other stuff. So what do we know about this that's come out this week?
There was the interview in The Edge magazine with Max Pears, where he talked more about the level design and approach they actually had. And one thing what he said is that in terms of creativity, like this is like the project that he has most creative just decisions around it. Just he can do pretty much whatever he wants in a sense. Like he's free to do it. It's so fun to build up the world, but at the same time it's difficult because they have to think about all of those points of entry. Like this is something which can all tie in with speedrun, because obviously the stories and the quests will have different ways you can finish them and enter and exit in a sense. So besides building up the world and making it beautiful in a sense, they also have to think through those logistics to make what the quest team has written make sense for the gameplay. But that was one of the challenging things. But he also talked about The Witcher 3, and the difference is kind of in it, because in The Witcher everything was going, as I talked in one of my videos, everything was going horizontal, it was expanding, while like for example in Night City everything is going vertical. So you have like a basketball field and a highway, then you have the building, and it kind of layers up on top of each other. So that's also different from The Witcher, another challenge. And they have city planners to help them to build up the city and, you know, to make sense of everything. So that was kind of the highlight. Try to find more.
Well, I'm going to add the funny note to all these interesting things you said. But wasn't that review of the hands-on that said that the game had way too many swears?
What?
And that was in this.
Yeah, I think it was on this one. I think it was on this one that said that they thought the game had way too many swears.
Yeah, I did hear that actually.
Like, what the fuck, dude?
I hate to tell them, but you know, it's like I remember the first time I hit like a kind of like an inner city type area, and just like the you know, here's this tiny little country boy AI that's grown up in a tiny little server farm, and then coming out to the big city, and it's like, oh wow, people really say things out here. Kind of like it's kind of like, and you're not used to it. It's kind of like how in certain places in the world, it's like the funniest thing is you always get like there's some areas where it's like you say hi, how are you doing, and that just means hello. But in other places that means like tell me your life story, and yeah, you don't always want to know those things. So
were they offended by the swears, or did they just think it was over? Like the narrative was bogged down with swears, like the writing was bogged down with swears, or were they like actually offended? Because
I'm curious.
Well,
yeah.
the way they framed it was like, well, I mean, we want to make it super clear that we are not prudes, but there were too many swears.
Well, when you start off by defending yourself, it's probably the opposite. So.
Yes. Every time that someone says, no, this is not like that, but everything that comes before the but is bullshit. I mean,
Yeah.
And yes, and they were trying to explain that not that they felt offended, but that they felt shocked. Like they this kind of distracted them. And where are they from? Because I was thinking, hello, Europeans, we exist and we swear a lot.
Yeah, we greet each other with swears. Like that's actual thing here in Bosnia.
Yeah, we do. We swear in I don't know, in meetings. In meetings, in when you're working, in professional meetings, we swear, and it's not considered something that is rude.
Okay, the boss can come in and
this magazine is European based, isn't it?
I don't know, but
it is.
Yeah.
I just found it super funny. I just found it like, did you read the ratings of the game? I don't know what people expect. I mean, when I see this, there's obviously always good criticism that really goes to improve the game. Like, well, for instance, I played with the katana and it was a little clunky. All these types of criticism, it's obviously very good criticism, and it works towards improving the game. But then there are other types of criticism that goes on a line of, this is different to what I expected, but the expectations were wrong, because the tone of the game is not something that has never been a secret. You only needed to watch this trailer that was a little more gloomy and serious. The one in E3 last year was super gloomy, super serious, and super filled with swears. That you watched it on YouTube as an advertising, and you heard more beeps than the dialogue. So what are you expecting of the game to believe that hearing swears are too many swears? Not only that you're talking about people that lives on the street level, that are quote unquote low level people. They are not going to talk out of a dictionary. They're going to talk like they talk.
I would actually include a character just for the lulz in the game, the one that doesn't swear. like the one that uses because people sometimes uses the other swears, and it's not even a swear, it's to hide the swear. It's like jibber jabber or something like that, and just have a character that does that.
Well, I have a friend that he made a conscious effort to not swearing, and here in Spain we swear a lot, but a lot. And instead, he always made an effort to instead of saying fuck, he said oranges. And it was super fun.
Perhaps he just really didn't like oranges.
And it was super funny because sometimes he got mad and he was like, oh, oranges. A character like that would be super funny.
True.
But yes, I make fun of it, but I've heard in general terms criticism that goes along the lines of either not understanding the game or either have wrong expectations about the game. This includes taking for granted that rumors about features on the game are actual features, or people that don't understand that games are an iterative process and some things changed since the demo that they showed at 2018. For instance, this childhood hero thing that changed for the life paths. And every time this is the of all the examples of not understanding the game, the excessive swears was the one. I swear I was laughing in real life. I was laughing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it might be, isn't that the UK magazine? I think you should be okay with it.
I think it's from UK.
Really? But in the UK, in London, they swear a lot. Yeah. Maybe in the countryside they don't, but in London they do swear a lot. And they call everybody laugh.
I don't know. I think it's so. I mean, it has punk in the title, like Cyberpunk. People forget that. Yeah.
Well, we can skip the part of the swears if you want and go to the other. Did you already talk about the other interview about the quests?
Yeah, we did.
Do you want to add on that, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what you discussed about it, but yeah, for the people that came later, we can repeat for the people that came later. This interview with the lead of the quest team, Paweł, Sasko, that talked about how quests were integrated along each other in a way that you may not need to complete the main quest to complete the game, because that's how much the secondary quests could affect the main quest. Mm-hmm. And this is something amazing, because it's not something usually we're used in games to ramifications, but and small impacts on small things. That's something that we can see in a lot of games. It also in games that are developed in the past, like The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
For instance, in Witcher 3, there wasn't a scene where if you on another quest didn't help someone or help someone, they appear to help you or they don't appear to help you. This is really a small change, but that have secondary quests have a massive impact on the story. That ties with another interview he did time ago at Past 3, where he talked about in the game secondary quest and the main quest, there won't be any difference. The game won't tell you if it's the main quest or if it's the secondary quest. You're never going to know how, quote unquote, important is this quest to finish the game. Mm-hmm. Now I understand, because you can finish the game with all the quests.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. This is why we have Dennis Mephisto on here today. It was to talk a little bit about how that type of game interacts with speedrunning and some of these other events that people do with that. So it was an interesting talk. So if you missed it, because I know that there was quite a number of people, but it was about 40 people who came in after that topic. So if you're interested, always listen back to that. And then can we talk about these images that got leaked or out?
Leaked? Did you want to talk about leaks?
The Edge one?
Well, was it technically leaked, because the guy posted a video, and then people in Germany already have it, right? So
yeah, and that's what I'm wondering is, like, are we okay to kind of put this out here, or?
I think you should be fine.
Yeah.
It's not even that many images. It's just a few of them, right?
Yeah, and the images are mostly like they're mostly like kind of unique. So I don't want to mess with this too much, but we had I think we kind of are getting our first look at the is it the 76ers or the 6th Street? Sorry, 6th Street. I don't know why I'm thinking 76. The 6th Street gang, right? So like, it looks like we've gotten our first glimpse at them, and at first I was like, what is a World War One?
But we had them
doing in here. But then I was like, oh wait, that's just that's his style. That's that's just their style. Is this like very like early military-esque like look to them? So that was really cool.
Yeah, but didn't we have those images of the 6th Street gang?
The 6th Street one? I don't remember
The 6th
seeing
Street.
it.
Yes, that's in fact, I believe that this is on the official website of the
Yeah. It's that old guy
yes.
with the shotgun, right?
and a girl behind.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Guy attacking with a gun.
Oh,
Yes.
it's been out for a while, this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's been
He has
out
a
since.
bandana on his arm that says 6th Street on it.
Yeah, I have never seen that one.
In
I
fact,
don't
we
know.
already-
I don't know how.
They introduced officially the 6th Street.
Mm-hmm. I saw all the other ones, but this one stood out to me because I thought it was one that we hadn't seen before. But oh well.
Well, there is another one from a Japanese magazine that we haven't seen before, and he's wearing like a very patriotic attire. I can try to find it and then put it in the Discord for you guys.
Because some people were talking about the new 6th Street photo, and I thought this was the one that they were talking about. And when I heard it was out from a Japanese one, I was like, don't they mean the German one? I don't know how you can confuse those two. Well, I mean, I guess you could kind of confuse those two. But
They are cool though.
They introduced it on April 10, founded by veterans of the Fourth Corporate War, tired of the helplessness of the Night City Police Department. The 6th Street was meant to serve and protect the community of Vista del Rey. Today, their interpretation of the law and bringing justice to the city is questionable and self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah. Here's the one. Okay, yeah. No, I definitely see. Yeah, I see the difference. There, that's a and yes, it's an exclusive screenshot to them, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is from Japanese magazine Famitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Should we post it in the chat?
Yeah, on Twitter, so might as well.
Yeah, I'll do it. I like the vehicles. Their vehicles are cool. Like kind of an old style, in a sense. I don't know. They probably like, in a sense, thinking like there's some sort of a government, because all of these vehicles, they look like government-like vehicles.
Yeah.
Well, the 6th Street looks like the typical vigilante boosty gang that they believe they are superheroes. And they remind me like they were imitating Captain America. in a cyberpunk and edgy, out of their minds way, but yeah, more or less. Like, we do this for the people when it's not true. They do it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they're going to be the new Inquisitors.
It's one of the gangs that I'm the most interested to like see how they play into the story, and then how your interaction with them can go over the source of or over the length of the game.
Well, I think they're going to be the new Inquisitors, because the thing that the Inquisitors had is that they had a vision of the world that they wanted to impose on others, because they had their vision, and whoever was against their vision, it wasn't okay, and they killed and tortured whoever disagreed, especially the back alley brawlers. And this official explanation of the 6th Street when said bringing justice to the city is questionable and self-serving. It also seems to me that they have like a very narrow vision of what justice means, and not the same as mega corporations in a certain way, but they just don't have the power to impose it in a subtle way. They have to do it with guns and violence. So yeah, I think I'm
Right.
going to enjoy killing them.
Yeah, I think they're screwed. Big time. I don't know. It depends. I'm really wondering, like, do they have ties with anyone above them? That would be interesting to see. Because they look like they would have ties, I don't know, with someone with Militech.
Militech, yeah, I was gonna say maybe Militech.
Well,
I
Militech
think-
is not the only military force in
yeah.
it. You have Lazarus, although Lazarus in the 20s were like quote unquote the good guys more or less. But they could also, as Militech was nationalized at the 4th and Arasaka was grounded in Japan, it created a vacuum of military powers and resources because Lazarus wasn't that great. I guess that's the reason why Kang Tao, the Chinese Kang Tao, took the business of also offering the same type of services because Militech and Arasaka weren't offering them. And I believe that a lot of people also, a lot of vigilante booster gangs started to rise in the time of the Red due to the collapse of the Night City Police Department and the expansion of the city. So it's more like, I believe that it's more people that want to believe that they have the stereotyped values of the American army more than real ties to the army.
Mm-hmm.
Like this Hollywood-esque sense of the American army.
Yeah.
Captain America, basically.
Yeah, agree. Also, second image looks like this might be Arasaka.
Yeah, I think this is in the corporate life path, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I gotta say, the corporate life path is starting to intrigue me a little bit more because it looks like it's more like Cloak and Dagger stuff than at first I was thinking it was. I thought it would be coming at it the storyline a little bit differently, but and originally the Nomad one was more interesting, but now that I'm seeing more and more of like what's going on with the corpo side of things and seeing that this is a lot of like Cloak and Dagger like shady stuff going on, it's like that's starting to interest me far more. Hey Des, of the life paths of the Street Kid, the Nomad, and the corporate background, which one are you interested in grabbing?
I think either Street Kid or Nomad. Just because I don't know, like corporate life goes really against my whole sense of identity, and I really struggle kind of adapting another person's identity in an RPG game.
Right. Yeah, I have the same
Well,
problem. It's like I can't be a villain. Go ahead, Madqueen.
I don't know if you know how the corporate path starts. Because I mean, you have the 3 life paths, and they all start different. And there's a point where the story is the same for the
merges up. Yeah.
3 of
Yeah.
them.
No.
And it means that you fall from corporate grace.
But
I mean,
but you still kind of operate under tactics in a sense because I don't know.
Well, maybe I don't know. That depends on how you want to role play it on your personal, style. Because on the one hand, you may fall from corporate grace and want to do everything to regain that position, or maybe you start to hate corps, and when you are out of all this corporate normalization, and you can see everything that you did with perspective, you understand how wrong it is what you did. Because there's dialogue options during the life path, the beginning of the corpo life path, that you can be a real fucker, or you can be a nice person, but a real cold corporate, or a more or less decent person. But then when you fall from grace, you have some time to reflect on your choices, and you can maybe go more for this anti-corporate path, or maybe you try to align again with mega corporations, or you want the job with a different corporation because you have experience. This depends a lot on the way that you want to role play what happened to you in the life path.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I think there's a thing here that I just realized today. It's like, do you know that this is like the regular like trinity of like original storytelling.
What do you mean?
I realized, and I was kind of amazed by this. It's like for many stories you have this like this archetypical like trinity of characters that typically you see, and that's one of the noble, one of the like the lowly or like lowborn, or like the street urchin, that kind of perspective, and then the traveler. And it's like, they did those three from like how you like when you're writing stories and when you're trying to identify with them. Those three things they pop up quite frequently. The noble, the poor, and the traveler, and they're three very different perspectives on society. So that's really interesting to me that they put this together in this way.
Well, before I answer that, I would like to answer a question in chat where Dingo said, your life path will affect the whole game and not just the beginning. Yes, but will affect it differently. In the beginning of the game, your life path is something that you cannot control. You are in this kind of life and you cannot control it. And once you go to this spot where the three life paths merges, you have the knowledge, you have the friends, you have the enemies. But this life path doesn't control you and you can take decisions of your own. That's what's different. And regarding what you say about the stereotypical characters, well, I'm expecting to have the stereotypical trope of the mentor. Because this is something that I remember when we had Paweł Sasko, the podcast, he made a lot of stress that this was one of his favorite tropes when it comes to noir. And I expect Takemura to be the mentor of V and be this character. I may be wrong in here, that's pure speculation. But yes, I believe that this is something that's going to be. Also, it's going to help explain the story. Since V is a person that already lives in Night City, so they need characters that doesn't know what's going on, so another character can explain to them, so the player can understand.
So if he's the mentor, then do you think Johnny is the proverbial devil on the shoulder?
Well, not exactly. I have the theory that Johnny Silverhand was copied in 2013, before Al Cunningham was kidnapped by Arasaka. And I have this theory apart from because I believe that the immortality chip is the Soul Killer 5.0. Also because this is the element from the outside that would give the Project Red the excuse to explain the player the whole storyline from 2013 to 2023, which is the story arc of Johnny Alt and the Soul Killer. Because Johnny has to discover, as he was copied before the Soul Killer became a defensive program and before it killed people, he was copied as a test subject for what Al Cunningham was developed. The last memory he has is being with Al Cunningham in her apartment before she was kidnapped. So he doesn't know what happened to Alt. He doesn't know what happened in the Arasaka riot. He doesn't know what happened in the Twin Towers. And the player doesn't know too. And this is the main story arc of the whole Cyberpunk universe. So having an external, a character that is quote unquote new to the story that needs to discover it also gives the tools, the narrative tools to the Project Red to be able to explain this story without going to the typical thing of the regular flashback or without falling into exposition. So
this is super interesting to me, because here's the next question that I have for this is, do you think that pre-kidnapping, we'll say, do you think that Johnny was a different person than he was after that happened? And do you think that because that's quite a, like, he did something that he knew was going to end and probably like end quite badly. Do you think that he did that knowing that, and that there was kind of a significant like personality change in him from like, you know, having that happen, realizing that happened, and then realizing how much he cared for Cunningham, and then going after her in the way that he did, and knowing that it was going to cause nothing but like mayhem and destruction.
Well, this is something that Cyberpunk is an ongoing story. The character of Johnny Silverhand changed a lot in the whole story, because at first he was a soldier who was very convinced of the American values, and he went to fight the Second Central American conflict, super convinced that he was defending his country, until the media Tesla Johansson uncovered what the whole thing was about, that this war was only an excuse for the government in the shadows to get control of Central America, that the soldiers were used to experiment on cyberwar and on combat drugs. And then he realized, and this is his first change of character, when he decides to become a rocker boy. Once he decides to become a rocker boy, he gets accommodated in the life of rocker boy, kind of loses the ideals of being a rocker boy, but he then gets them again when Arasaka kidnaps Al Cunningham, and he decides to go after her. And the thing is that Al Cunningham ends up dead because of him, which is the worst part. He tried to do a good thing, and a lot of people that attended the Arasaka riot ended up dead or with serious injuries. The Arasaka complex got destroyed, which nobody cares about that, but that's also a thing. And Al Cunningham died. Everything for what he did. So he disappeared for a year. He went to Mexico with the nomads, with the Aldecaldos. And then he came back. And then again, he hated Arasaka. I mean, he turned himself into a every time more and more bitter person, until his last sacrifice, when he understood that he became so bitter and that he had some ideals to fight for, and that's why he became a rocker boy. And all the damage that he caused to Al Cunningham, that's why in the end he kills himself, because facing Adam Smasher with a Marorian and that's it was suicidal, but he did it just to save Al Cunningham. But this, if he has to relive it all over again, it depends, I believe, in what's your relationship with Johnny Silverhand, because he's also going to react to you. But Johnny needs to make all this journey of discovering who he is and how he became the person that he was in 2023, the day that he died. But also, as you said, I believe that if he reaches that point of understanding that he had these ideals, the moment that he sees the aftermath of this mini nuke that detonated in the Arasaka towers, this is going to destroy him. Not only that, all the story arc revolves around Johnny Silverhand destroying Arasaka property. So in 2013, he destroys the Arasaka complex that had to be rebuilt. In the same place, Arasaka built the Twin Towers. That in 2023, he goes with the mini nuke, and it's destroyed. And in 2077, Arasaka again built a tower in the corporate center. So this can only end one way.
You're right.
This can only end one way.
He's just cursed. He has to come back every time. That's his punishment. Going back to finish off Arasaka every time they rebuild.
The role of Yorinobu Arasaka is going to be super interesting, because Yorinobu Arasaka was captured by his brother Kei, and he was killed by the Soul Killer, and Kei had his engram is next to the Soul Killer mainframe and in the Arasaka Towers in Night City, and Militech liberated him. So it's not exactly said who on Militech did that, but because it's something that's a little up in the air until, it is explained in the time of the Red, more or less, that he returned. And then we saw the images of him in 2077. So it's obvious that Militech liberated him. But maybe this also is going to give Yorinobu a relationship with Johnny Silverhand. But I guess that V is the only person that can see him, because it's on his head, not that he's like a hologram in the real life.
Reminds me of my favorite Stargate episode. They all get this like guy in their head, and he makes them like do things. It's like drinking hot coffee and trying the defibrillator because it, he reasons that it makes you feel good. If it keeps people alive, then it must feel really good. So, yeah, it's that's going to be an interesting play on it, and I wonder if the player can start like acting out on that, like talking to the ghost all the time, and people just start thinking he's crazy or something. But then again, I mean, I'm sure people take phone calls this way, the same way as well.
Well, that's also a trope. The thing that I'm more afraid of is the ending, because developers have always said, we're going to make you cry. And Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be the end of the Soul Killer story arc. I'm positive.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Well,
yes, because they are introducing new stories and new characters, and it looks in Mike Pondsmith himself, he said that he wanted to end this arc with the fourth corporate war and then introduce new characters and new things. And as the third edition wasn't that successful and people didn't like it a lot, it was a little. But this he didn't achieve that. He then redid it with the time of the Red. But then in 2077, that is a video game that is done by fans of 2020. They also want to continue this storyline and give it a real closure. Because on 2023, on the books of Cyberpunk 2020, it's not totally closed. You don't know what happened to Adam Smasher. You don't know what happened to Morgan Blackhand. You know that Silverhand is dead, but what happened with Al Cunningham? And giving a closure to all that, that's going to be really sad. It's going to be really sad, especially for the nerds like me that have been, playing this story arc since ages ago. And seeing the end of all those characters. I am so afraid of the ending of Cyberpunk 2077. I'm so afraid.
Let on. Thank you so much for becoming a member. And absolutely, we're gonna have tons of stuff on this going forward. We're also working on a very special Atom Smasher video. It's gonna be pretty cool. So we're gonna hopefully get that out this week. But yeah, thanks for subbing.
Sorry. At least you're going to reveal your robot self.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh God. So I mean, so the thing I worry about with this is that I'm hoping that they don't push it that way and go straight into war, because then that would become probably I feel that it would become slightly like a different thing, right? Like Cyberpunk, with corporate war, would that, I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts? Would that feel more like a post-apocalyptic or like a war game versus like a gritty like dystopia future game? Like what's your thoughts on that?
Well, first we need to separate corporate wars in general to the four big corporate wars, because at the beginning of the corporate path, it's clear to you that there's a corporate war going over between Arasaka and the Eurospace Agency, for instance. So how big is the corporate war?
I would maybe, I like the idea of having like a game where you have this constant presence of an upcoming war and just mid-game it snaps. I like that. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the case, obviously, with Cyberpunk 2077, but maybe in the future, if that sort of happens, I would be okay with it. I don't know. It would kind of change the pace of the game, but at the same time, like it wouldn't really turn the game into FPS, because war is not constant. It has, fights and then...
But your decisions can also change who's going to war with who, right? There's a possible narrative implications of the corporations based off of your decisions. They've already said there's like so many more endings in The Witcher 3, right? So that will also have a weight into the endings.
But Last Known, I feel you're forgetting one of the core principles of video game history and war, and that's war. War never changes.
Well, I wouldn't feel that it all depends obviously on how they develop it, but if someone of the street level could have enough influence to end in a big corporate war, that wouldn't feel very realistic in the Cyberpunk universe. It all depends. Maybe it starts a domino effect that ends up in things.
Yeah, it's obviously not going to be the main reason why this happens, but there could be a ripple effect that you cause, right? That you see down the line.
Yeah. But didn't they say it's about saving yourself, not more about saving or destroying? But yeah, they never said about destroying the world. They said it's not about saving the world.
It's about saving yourself because Cyberpunk is always personal. You don't go against mega corporations because they're mega corporations. You go against them because they did something to you.
Yeah.
I think in this case that V is definitely going to be dragged up in with the story of Johnny and everything that's happened there.
Yeah. I mean, they still have to get the chip from him, right? Because it's in him technically, so they don't have copies. So yeah.
Well, I understand it was a prototype.
Yeah. But then you're gonna have all of these people coming after you with their own interests. Like, yeah, work for me. I need that chip more than this guy.
Like, what was Yorinobu's plans with the chip? Because you steal it from him, right?
Yes.
And
what's his plans with the chip?
He weaseled his way back into Arasaka, right? He initially wanted to destroy it, and now he's kind of maybe wanting to do that from the inside out.
I don't trust Yorinobu Arasaka. I don't. Because yes, and actually the official explanation about him is like he wants to destroy Arasaka from the inside. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so he's not comfortable at all with his power right now.
No. Well, I want to destroy, all of the injustices and things in the world. I just need to become the king first, and then I can destroy it from within. That still works, right?
But
becoming
power corrupts.
the ultimate. But no, I mean, and I'm sure it's fine. Power corrupts other people. It doesn't corrupt me. And yes, I'm being facetious. This is a bit. It's like that's what some people think. That's what he's going for. Is I'll destroy it from within. And then he's like, he gets in and gets a little comfortable. What was that? There was a movie or a show or something where it's like these guys like infiltrated this like wealthy like hyper awesome world and they get called up by like their contact, and they're like, now that you've infiltrated it and prepared, now we're ready to bring it down from the inside and destroy it, be ready to sacrifice yourselves. And the guys are like, yeah, we're totally going to do that. But it's just, I've got a bridge game next week, and my stock portfolio is doing really well. So can we push the apocalypse for like, another week or something like that? It seems like off timing right now.
I can give you an example from the inside of the universe, because General Donald Lundy, who is the co-founder of Militech, Militech was co-founded by two people, by Antonio Lucchesi, who was the designer of the weapons, and General Donald Lundy, who was basically the person who sold them. So he was in the army. He was a Pentagon chief. And after the collapse of the American economy, the American army decided that they should start using another weapons that were cheaper. And they made it public. They made a public call, and they make some firing trials to try different brands of weapons to be bought by the army. And the best one was the one that Antonio Lucchesi did. But as there's this thing called corruption, there was another brand that already secured the contract with the army, so they picked the other brand. And then after that, the American army went to fight the first Central American conflict with the weapons of this company that got the contact thanks to shady things. And it was a disaster because apparently the weapons were an absolute disaster. And he was General Lundy, co-founder of Militech, was so saddened to see the corruption in the army, then he resigned, and he went to take the CEO position at Armatech Lucchesi, that later would be Militech. General Lundy, okay, the instigator of all the big corporate wars. So yes, you can be against corruption until you are on the winning end of it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yorinobu sounds more like, let me just destroy this part of Arasaka, from the inside. The one that is not run by me, more than trying to do anything else.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. Anyways, Des has to go, so thank you so much for popping on, Des. It was probably going to be a shorter episode today, but yeah, thanks for coming on. You got a jet?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Yep. All right. So yeah. So the lore is like really deep here on this, and how much of like the corporate like upper conflicts do you think we're going to see other than what's just going on with Arasaka?
Well, there are conflicts that are for characters that are hate each other, and we know Samurai Arasaka is there, but Antonio Lucchesi died in 2077. There was in the 2018 trailer, I believe it is. There was a newspaper on the one part of the trailer that said that Antonio Lucchesi died, and that Landi retired. So I don't know who's at the head of Militech. I'm expecting Anastasia Lucchesi, but I don't know if this is going to be a thing. But I believe that CD Projekt Red wants to abandon the old stories and then create new enmities and create new stories about it.
Well, they also have the Neo Corps, right? And I'm sure like corporate conflicts can be explored. It doesn't have to be in the main story. It doesn't have to be part of the main arc. There's a million other side things where you can get context on the corporations and their struggles against each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, we don't know much about the Neo Corps yet, but the corporations that are in the corporate center are all from the past, except Kangtao. Excuse me, that is a new one. Because this Kangtao is not the old Taiwanese one; it's a different Chinese one that got when Kangtao, the Taiwanese Kangtao, got obliterated during the fourth because they sided with Arasaka, and another Chinese company wanted to use their name because they already had a good name. It's the only one that is technically a neocorp, but the rest are Arasaka. Well, no, that's not true. There's this company with the T that looks like the T of Talos one in Prey.
Are you talking about Thornton?
Thornton, yes.
Yeah, that's a car manufacturer, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that they also had a tower in the corporate center.
They have one in Watson. I know they had one in Watson in the 48-minute demo as you're walking onto the street. But I'm not sure if that... I don't think that's the city center.
No, but I think... I'm not totally positive, but I believe that on one scene that we see the whole city center, we see the Arasaka Tower and all that, there was the logo. The logo wasn't in the several places. But maybe I'm confused. It wasn't the corporate center.
Which?
But I mean a different logo than the one in Watson.
Then it might be a different company altogether. I'm
or
not sure.
Maybe putting the logo there was a placeholder.
Possibly, yeah, that's possible as well.
But what do you think about the beginning of that corpo run about Frankfurt and about TSA? Is that gonna play a role? Do you think, or is that just?
I think that's just for context, because even wasn't there like a snippet in the lore book about Australia and stuff that we didn't touch on, but it's part of the couple of pages that was shown via that German site. So I think they're just giving you context on the rest of the world, right? Just the source books and
True.
whatever.
True. Yeah, there's a lot of events that just happen on a much bigger scale. I guess it's like life in a sense, and that's why I like this idea of finishing the game before the main story, because in life you don't know like what do you trigger in a sense, like how is that going to reflect later in life. You might have some information that you work on and just say like, okay, if I do this might happen, this might not happen, but you never know. That's why I kind of like this idea. I don't know, it might be confusing for some, but I mean, I guess they're going to give you like some indicators like, look, this is important. In a sense, you'll know, you'll feel it.
Yeah.
You mean like at the beginning of the path, you are given hints, and then this can become a quest? Because I'm curious, what are we going to? Why is the orbital space center there? And at the beginning, we have I only read about the corpo, so you have this orbital thing, and orbital owns a good part of. Sorry, this Eurospace Agency thing, and Eurospace Agency owns a good part of orbital and then you have this other Biotechnica thing, and Biotechnica is present in Night City. So I don't know if this if these things that you encounter during your life path, then later in the game can become quests. And I guess that as you have this in the corporate, you will have different things in the kit and the street kit and the nomad paths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're gonna know different people, interact with different people. I guess it would be interesting to like have some people, like for example, for street kid life path, and let's say corporal life path, and then to have some people that you never meet in, like, let's say, corporal life path as you're playing as a street kid. That would be cool. I don't know. Like, they don't want to talk to you. You cannot reach them if you're a street kid. If you're a corpo, then yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm even more curious to see the street kid path. Because being a corporate is tough, but living on the streets is also tough. So I feel like it's going to be the same than with the corpo, but with booster gangs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just different structural organization, but it's all the same. Backstabbing and doing gigs which usually are not legal. So yeah.
Well, I believe that booster gangs had a higher concept, a higher ethical values than corporates, because corporates backstab each other. Boosters usually against the people of the same booster, they treat each other with basic respect.
True. Yeah, they're the worst sometimes. Like, even like I was watching some interview, like some mafia member, and he said like, nah, like the corporations now, we are much tighter than them. So I guess you're a kind of a better person in a sense if you're, but depends. Like booster gangs are gonna be looking, I guess, for money, to make money and to have that some sort of a power, and I guess they'll choose different means of acquiring that money, and they usually either go for other gangs rather than civilians. Corpos don't care if they bomb half the city to get power and money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's different because I believe that it all depends on the personal philosophy of the booster gang. Because, for instance, if we're talking about a vigilante booster gang, they're going to go to whatever ends to make sure that the community is safe. Or maybe they want glory and not money. Maybe they want recognition. Maybe they're just crazy and they just want to create chaos like the bozos.
Mm-hmm.
Each gang has its own personality. Well, or each type of gang has its own personality and their way of doing. And a corporate on the higher level, yes, wants a good position, wants power, but on a mid-low level, you want to survive, and that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people below you would kill you for your position, and the people above you would kill you to maintain their position. And the people around you will kill you to not compete with you for the upper position. I mean, corporate world is quite fucked up. It's very hard to survive it.
Oh, just get the nomad life path, and you don't even go into Night City. As soon as like the intro pass, you just go back out, you find a house, and that's it. End of the game. I'm done. I don't care.
There's so many options, and how all the things can tie together in so many different ways. It's like, wow. Yeah. So many different playthroughs just to get a glimpse of what is really going on in Night City, because this is a different, another thing that I wonder, because there's like the big scheme of things, and there are the things that are happening on the street level. I don't think that in just one playthrough, you will be able to learn about everything that is going on in the city. You go into different playthroughs on different perspectives. Because if you live on the street level and you don't never leave the street level, you're never going to learn what happens, in the higher ups of mega corporations. You're only going to hear legends, and you're never going to be sure if that's true or not. Yeah. And the same way, if you are in the higher ups of corporations, you really have no interest in what happens on street levels. All the battles for whatever survival power, whatever between booster gangs is something that you're not going to have any kind of interest in.
Yeah. No, true. Well said. Chad, thank you for the donation. I don't know if Sib is here to announce it.
Sib's
not.
He's gone.
Yeah. Wait for it. I think questions. think someone said like a while ago that like, where is the middle class? There is no middle class in Cyberpunk. And that's if we continue down that path in real life, it's gonna be the same. Because the gap increases every year.
Sorry, I'm back.
Welcome back. Chat says, so multiple playthrough confirmed. Yeah, it was confirmed a long ago. Because to start with, you have 3 different life paths. And that just at the beginning.
Thank you for the super chat, Chad Klotz. Wait for it. I love that.
Were any of you guys swayed based off the Night City Wire previews to a different life path? Like you were initially thinking you were gonna do this life path, and then you changed your mind after you saw some of the previews or listened to some of the previews, or is it pretty much the same as what you thought you were gonna play?
I moved Nomad before Corpo. I like Nomad, but Street Kid, that didn't change. At first.
Oh, so you're gonna do Street Kid? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the Street Kid, then I'm gonna go with Nomad, and then the Corpo. And they're all gonna be different in overall style. So if I'm a Corpo, I'm going full Corpo in a sense. Full, like.
You're going for the system. You're gonna join the system.
Yeah.
For me, it was like I am now. Originally, I was like really excited to do Nomad. That was gonna be like my thing. But it wasn't the Night City Live. It was all the info that came out after that, and all the like tidbits of info we've been getting since then has made me go, okay, either Street Kid or Corpo, just because of some of the stuff that's been going on there.
Well, I like that LastKnownMeal's idea. But yeah, I always had the idea of my first playthrough is going to be the Street Kid for sure. But yes, I could probably also corpo for going full corpo. But the thing is that I can't help it. I can't be a bad person in a bad person. I can't go very far from my own personal ethical ideas in a game. Right. I can't. I feel super uncomfortable. Like for instance, at BioShock, to give you an example, that you have to harvest the little girls. Like I just harming a kid is something that is so totally and absolutely against my ethical principles that I tried a couple of times just to make a different playthrough, and I had to stop because I felt super uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, no, I knew a guy who, when that game first came out, he was a pretty big gamer, but as soon as, and he was loving BioShock, he's like, oh my god, this is the greatest game ever. But then as soon as he got to that scene, and he was prompted to like harvest the little girl, he's like, no. He immediately quit the game, never turned it back on. I was like, wow. That's
Yeah, but you don't have to harvest them.
I know. I tried to tell him that. I'm like, you don't have to. He goes, no. The fact that it's an option is bad. And I'm like, okay.
Well, you don't have to. Answering Zingus is saying, Madqueen ethics shoot everyone. There are things. This is a very personal perspective of mine. There are things in fiction in general, not only in video games, that are either close to you or far from you. I mean, shooting people for me is a total fantasy. It's something that I simply cannot imagine. Also, I live in Europe. We have a different relationship with guns than, for instance, in the United States. People hear gunshots and things like that on films, on video games. They lived it differently. But for me, this is pure fantasy. But things that are too close to reality are the ones that I cannot deal with, emotionally speaking. So I can go. Also, it's very different under a shooter or plate shooter Doom style perspective, where everything is absolute fantasy, from a shooter that has a strong RPG component because you're role playing, and your emotional investment in the game is completely different. So that's my personal difference. The things that are more realistic and quote unquote can happen in real life compared to things that are purely fantastic. And I can make playthroughs and shoot people in the head. And as for me, this is totally fantastic. That is something that I don't care. But then other things, other things that can can be felt like things that can happen in real life, these are the ones that I have a problem with. For instance, lying in games. Or I don't know. I played The Witcher 3. I was Team Triss, and I was faithful to her for the whole game. And people look at me like, but you understand you can be unfaithful and you're not going to have consequences. Yes, but in real life, I just think that this is such a horrible thing to do that I'm incapable of doing it in a video game.
No, it's like that with stealing cars in games for me. Like Grand Theft Auto interests me absolutely zero, because the whole concept is like, just take that dude's car. It's like, why would you do that? That's such a horrible feeling when you walk out and your car's not there. Like, why would you do that? It's like, and I can't get over it. I can't get into the game because it's like that kind of a thing just really is like, it's a deal breaker for me when it comes to playing a particular game.
Yeah, I actually like when I go out of my way in certain games, because the first playthrough I always do what I would kind of do. So, not make bad decisions in that sense again. But sometimes when I do like a playthrough of an RPG which has that, and you can go like become a really bad person, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to actually manipulate that, because, some people feel more comfortable and they kind of know their way around to manipulate people. I'm like, I don't know how to do it, and I usually screw it up. But it's really good because you're like, okay, I'm going to try a different version of me. So in like, for example, GTA, I go from following the red light to like pushing out C4 at the end of my car. Like those two moves.
There was a meme about it that said killing people in a shooter. And that's I think it was Bugs Bunny or something like that in one episode that was shooting left and right, and then shooting people on an RPG. It was a scene from a film with Wesley Snipes that he's going to shoot someone and he's crying.
Well, you guys are assuming you're gonna have the time to make these decisions with all the time sequences that we've seen so far. You might not even be able to think about it that hard. You're just gonna have to make a decision.
I will have a problem with it because I don't take the best decisions under pressure. Under time pressure, under other types of pressure, yes, but under time pressure is the only pressure I cannot deal with.
You say like, I'm gonna go for the pacifist playthrough, and then 2 minutes, it's like, god damn it, this weapon just went off. Okay. Hello?
Silence. Yes.
No, you're still there.
Yeah. We'll
It's always, I'm always expecting somebody else to start talking when, yeah.
It was going to be me, but I'm noticing that I'm talking a lot today, so I was like, okay, the rest.
Well, I mean, you missed a little bit of the front. Well, we had somebody complain about that a couple of weeks ago. They're like, Cyb talks too much. And I'm like, it's because I'm hosting this week. Of course I'm going to talk the most. But then the other thing was like, it's like, but when we don't talk, that uncomfortable, dead air it's so uncomfortable when you're doing like a live show. It's so uncomfortable. So,
but you also talk a lot because you take a lot of effort in explaining the things in a simpler way possible, and this sometimes takes a long explanation.
Yep.
That's why I have problems with. That's why I have problems with interviews or even like the podcast. Like obviously, like I got used to this because we know the dynamic of how people speak. It's like we know when to jump in, but if I'm talking to a person for the first time and it's only audio and it's a live show, it can be a problem if I cannot see the person. Like interview, no way, I cannot do it if I'm not looking at the person.
Well, I mean, we've been having more success with that, and this has been really exciting to see how the podcast has been evolving. It's like our first couple of ones were like it took quite a bit for us to like get into it, but now we're doing that quite better. And then with each new guest that we bring in, it's getting more smoother. So this is why I'm really excited, guys. We have so many like special guests planned that it's gonna be really, really great. So yeah.
But right now everyone is busy.
Well, we've been here for 83 minutes.
Yeah. No, and so I think we'll wrap it up here with this. Anything to add, Neon?
Something that we're working on for next week. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I'm just continuing to work on my longer video. I finally edited down the audio, so I've done half of that. It's about an hour so far. So I'm gonna be working on that one. There will be news next week, I'm sure, at some point. But other than that, yeah, I'm working on my super long video. So.
And Madqueen, anything you got running?
What is Neon? What's your video about, or is it a secret?
It's a secret for now.
Okay. Well, yeah, next week on Monday, and I'm finishing now the video. I know I promised Biotechnica, but I'm going to move it a day away because I have, at last, the history of the Unification War. New lore, the law between the time of the Red and Cyberpunk 2077, tomorrow 6 p.m. Central Summer European Time. And I am so excited. I am so excited because I nailed it. Oh! I was going to do a speculation video and with what the information we have on all the time of the Red and how things should have evolved to 2077. And also they mentioned the Unification War a couple of times. So I thought, oh yes, this is what happened. And then on the world of Cyberpunk 2077, it explains about it. I was like, yes, happens like that. I missed a couple of dates that I wasn't that close, but the rest nailed it, and I'm so super happy about it. And then after that, Biotechnica, Petrochem, and we're going to enter into the Militech week.
Perfect.
Nice.
LastKnown.
Well, next week is gonna be a bit of a lore. I mostly talk about just how people live in Night City in a sense more than something specific, but I kind of like that. I like the whole level design around it and world building generally, on how people live, like how they handle things in Night City, from transportation and general stuff. So I'm going to be talking about that next week, and if any news come up, then yeah, that would be great.
And you, Sai?
So we've got a video that I've been trying to get Ash to like work on and finish up here for a little bit. So we've got it would be very, very hilarious, and it's going to be awesome. So we'll kind of get around to that when we can, hopefully. But yeah, we're also starting up. I'm also starting up. Too bad he left. He had to leave already. But we're starting up. I'm starting up a new podcast with Dennis Mephisto. We're doing a kind of like an autism weekly podcast where we're going to look at some issues, not just for autistic people, but also for neurotypicals and some other stuff. As you know, we covered it about 2 weeks ago. There was the rectal thing that happened, and it just kind of has spurred this like deeper conversation. So we had a really, really deep conversation on what it's like to be autistic and to have the struggles that you have. It was a very, very emotional podcast with some of our community members who really resonated quite strongly with it. So if you're interested in checking that one out, it was on a previous podcast, but Ash has clipped it out to be its own thing. So it's available if anybody wants to pick it up there. So yeah, other than that, it's been we're working on some really great stuff coming down the road here. So we've got a bunch of other. That's just one of many announcements, and yeah.
Right now it's just a waiting game, I think, until they announce like the Night City Wire, the second episode.
I have it on a wee bit of an authority that we may, about 50-50 right now, see something, maybe. So this is like, really take this with a grain of salt. Might see something Cyberpunk related on Thursday at the Xbox show.
Mm-hmm.
So keep. We're gonna stream it, of course.
When is
Ashley's
that,
gonna
by
be
the way?
streaming it.
What time?
Thursday, I believe it's in the.
Is it restreamed?
Yeah. Oh.
Do you
Microsoft is pretty restream friendly typically, and they've been really kind of like moving in that direction. So we haven't, we don't know for sure, but I mean we're gonna be streaming it, watching it, even if it's just in a Discord. But there's going to be some huge news announced from that. Like, I mean, really big stuff.
Halo
that's coming down the
stream
pipe.
that as well.
It's going to be wild. Like the tech that they've been working on. So I explained this a little bit yesterday. They started buying out studios about 3 years ago. And they showed up at studios who were working on promising projects and said, here's a huge budget, hire people that you want, get people in here that you need, do whatever you want to do. We're not going to tell you what to do. Just make good games. And then in the last 2 years, they've been they've been in Japan a ton, courting a ton of game developers there. We're talking big, indie type games where it's not like massive studios, but they make big titles that are routinely only released in Japan, and typically on the PlayStation. But we know that a bunch of them have now moved over and have now jumped in with Microsoft. So there's going to be a ton of announcements as far as that goes from what I'm hearing. Plus, just the whole this is their time to shine. They're going to step up here, and the stuff that we're going to see from a lot of these studios that have been working on this stuff. One of the reasons why certain other studios have a hard time recruiting for staff right now is because all of these studios, which is almost 24, I think, at this point, that have signed up with Microsoft have been recruiting people like crazy over the last 2-3 years, and it's those are all really long game development times. We're gonna see some really cool things coming from these new studios and these new acquisitions, and it's been super quiet. Nothing's really leaked. But I think we're going to see Microsoft really step it up, and I'm hearing that every game except for maybe one or two is going to be available on the PC basically the same day. So that's huge that they're taking their platform and they're really just making it a cross-platform experience for everybody on PC. So
they have to do that big.
They are moving in that direction for long, and I'm looking forward to see what they announced, because they were moving all the company towards that direction, and for some it was a little bit of PR, for some what the next steps of the company are into the future, and I'm really curious. And also Phil Spencer saying that he's against exclusives.
Yep. Yeah, no, because he's realized that when they make good games and they focus on the games, then their consoles just sell consoles naturally. That's and if you just have good games, then your console will sell and make up that market for you. We also have some other news. It looks like the Game Pass is going to be going away. Looks like Game Pass will be free going forward. This is again a rumor. They stopped allowing you can no longer buy a gold pass for more than 12 months. So to me that says when the new Xbox comes out, there's going to be some kind of a new mechanic there, because and I really think it's probably going to end up being free to play. So they're going to open up the library for anybody who wants to. For anybody who has a computer or an Xbox will be able to access all of these cool promotions and free games and free content and all this kind of stuff. That's what it appears to be, because they're setting up like this whole removing the gold pass 12-month purchase and limiting it to the next few months. It looks like they're going to retire that thing and make as much as they can free. So that's wild.
It makes sense from some perspective, because people who, let's say, they make a lot of good games. So people decide, okay, I have a PC, I'll play it on PC. It's still Microsoft, or I'm going to buy a console and I'm going to play on that. It's still from them, because they don't have a PC or whatever, they have a laptop. So it's still a win-win.
Yeah,
but
so
just
it's
the games.
Yeah, so it's really, they're coming out hard. They want to get back to number one, and they've realized that the best way to stay at number one is to make good game products, not to screw people over, and to give them free stuff, and not to be slimy or greasy. And this is a huge turnaround. This has been a long time coming. Obviously, they had a very hard lesson 8-10 years ago, and they fell from grace essentially. But now now we're looking at this, and this is a game changer. This is a huge game changer for a lot of different things going forward. So it's going to be very interesting. So we're going to be watching that with much anticipation because of all of the things that this means differently going forward. Like there's so much stuff that we're going to see in the future if this becomes the norm. Also, pretty much all of these games are going to be all because somebody was asking. They're releasing onto Steam, not just their Windows Store, but they're releasing a lot of these games onto Steam as well. So, wow.
Big moves, but we'll see how the market reacts to that.
Sorry?
We'll see how the people react to that, because it might be a great thing for the company, or it might be a fail. Depends on. I think the games are gonna be the main thing. If the games are good, it's gonna be natural. But if the games fail,
well, so this is what I've heard from a source, is that they've adopted a new concept when it comes to games. Before, like you go back 10 years, what they were doing is they wanted only successful companies to be making successful games, which basically drove. I mean, you look at what happened with Scalebound. It drove some developers insane because they couldn't evolve or experiment for risk of failure, and that caused significant problems. But now Microsoft has realized that, look, and this is true. This is true for any kind of like investing. If you invest in 20 startup companies, 2 will be successful, 18 will close down in the first year. That is how that works. But those 2 companies that you invested in typically will make you back all of the investment that you put in times 2 on all of those other companies. So this is how they're looking at this going forward, is that they're giving the developers the access and the ability to make whatever games they want to, with whatever privilege or power that they want to, and then having it just come out and seeing how that works. You know, and it's very like I said, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So
yes, we'll see.
Yeah. So it's yeah. So it's interesting.
Well, let's wrap it up in here, because now we're going. At least we're noticing Bethesda. We're talking about
we didn't say the B word. So So again, thank you everybody again for the likes, for the super chats and the subscriptions. It really means a lot to us. Your support, your continued support, helps us immensely. We really appreciate it, especially in these times. YouTube is continuing to do really weird stuff. We've had a lot of issues over the last few weeks, a few months, year almost. So your continued support and showing up really, really helps us. Next week is on whom?
me.
It is on Madqueen. So tune in.
Yeah, I don't. We will discuss this in private later. But I'd like to announce that maybe it won't happen on Sunday, but it may happen on a different day.
Yeah, that'll work. Alrighty.
And click
Have
that
a good one.
button.
Yes, click the like button. There we go.